worm castings now, in particular African nightcrawler worm casting, which is on your website. And it really made me think of there are different types of worm castings, and we don't really talk about that much, right? So, worm castings, I think a lot of my audience is familiar with the benefits of it, kind of how to use it. But if you can break that down for us, and also kind of the differences between, like, African nightcrawler worm casting versus other types.
Yeah, so basically the African is just the type of worm that is used in this system. It's a larger worm, larger poop. So it looks really nice. And I really like the African one that we carry, but there's nothing, I'm not here to say that like African worm castings are going to be superior to red wiggler worm castings, for example. It's really the most important factors with worm castings are the feedstock. So what the worms are fed, the quality of that, how long the worms work that material. So when you look at worm castings, and it's easier with African because they make bigger poop, but what you should see is a bunch of tiny balls. If you're seeing a bunch of other stuff in there, that means that the worms haven't worked that material fully. So that's the biggest factor in terms of getting pure castings and getting your money's worth. We used to sell a red wiggler casting, but what we found over time was this particular source was higher chlorides and sodium in the final product than we want, because we're always testing these things. And so we stopped selling that one. But prior to that, from a biological perspective, the African looked just as good as the red wiggler, but the chlorides and sodium were much higher in the red wiggler, so we dropped it. So just be sure to, look into your sources and make sure you're adding things, because when you get too high of sodium or chlorides in your soil, both of those things can cause issues with your EC and limit available nutrient uptake for your plant.
Yeah, too much sodium can certainly inhibit some of the other nutrient being uptaked. And that's a problem I ran into. I have high sodium in my water, high sodium, bicarbonates. And so when I tried using tap water here, it was a terrible result. I had deficiencies, unfortunately. A whole bunch of crap was going on in the medium there. It was not a good result at all. So that's interesting that was in the worm castings, though.
Yeah. Water is the most important thing. Whenever I move to a new location, the first thing I do is test my water and make sure that it's suitable for irrigation, because what you can drink is not necessarily what you want to put into your soil or put on your plants. So that's a really good point. I'm sorry you're dealing with that.
And in regards to application rate, now, is this more generalized versus the different types of worm castings? Like typically what I'll do is, either cup, or I'll do like an inch across the top layer of the soil. Is there a certain application rate or general application rate that you advise folks to use for worm castings?
No, so the way I approach worm castings is really, because they're so expensive, and we usually have limited access to them because of the cost. I tend to use them specifically for biology. So I will use them, like you said, with a light top dressing, or I'll make a compost extract or compost tea out of them. An aerated compost tea is a way of extracting and replicating those microorganisms. So I think those are the best ways to get the most bang from your buck from earthworm castings.
This clip is brought to you by AC Infinity. Use discount code MrGrowIt15 to save on any of their products.